Hi, welcome back to another episode of His and Hers. I'm Deanna.
And I'm David, and today we're going to talk about all that immigration coming across our border.
It's been a very heated discussion, especially when it comes to migrants.
I mean, it seems that both Democrats and Republicans are on the same page, but then why is nothing getting done? They want to put in a bill where it involves border control, but also include the wars that are going on. The Ukraine war, especially, where people are like, hey, we've given them enough money. We don't want to give anymore. Can we fix the border wall? But that is not an option unless everything's done in one bill.
We're all descendants of immigrants that have come to America. Nobody was actually born here. Like myself, I'm Irish and German that came over here to settle. And they did it the right way. They came over the boat, they did. But now we've got people, they're just sneaking across the border. What is all that about?
Now, I do remember back at World War II when the Jews were fleeing Nazi Germany. They came to New York for asylum and they were turned around. They were sent back to Nazi Germany to die. What's different between now and then? I mean, Roosevelt, and I'm Jewish and I don't understand how a lot of Jews can support today's Democratic Party. Or even then, when Roosevelt turned all the Jews around to go back to Nazi Germany because Americans didn't want them, the Jewish people should have had a change of heart and party somewhere. And, now we have all these immigrants coming across the border. What kind of people are we getting? I mean, I heard Venezuela is like emptied their jail, sent them here. That's what Cuba did. When we got all the Cuban immigrants, Cuba emptied their jail. Venezuela's crime is down because they're all here. And our crime is up with the immigration.
You know what? And there is a thing that like criminals that sneak across and they try to get asylum, like he was saying. And so what are these immigrants? What are we going to do with them?
I mean, so right now, they come across the border. They don't even try to run or hide. They just go to the border. They say, hey, I'm seeking asylum. They've been coached by attorneys from this country, of what to say, the key words. They come here. They go for asylum. They know what to say. And then they disappear in the country. And do they ever go to court for their day in court? Most likely not.
Now, I know a couple for women, they have what they call anchor babies because part of our laws is you can have a baby on American soil and the baby is automatically an American citizen if it's born in the United States. So you have these immigrants skating the laws because you can't have a baby by itself. It can't grow itself. So you have to stay with the baby. That was a big thing for a while too, the anchor babies.
Well, it's still a big thing. Russia does it. Russia, I have a friend of mine, his daughter's a nurse, works up in Jacksonville area at a clinic, and they get a lot of Russian immigrants that come in here just to deliver their child. And then they fly back to Russia. So we have a lot of immigration coming in, like a lot from China, a lot from all around the world right now, from Africa, from South America, not a lot of Mexicans. That's kind of irony of that, right? That's funny. But so with that being said, I mean, what do you think of all this immigration? I mean, how do you feel about it? And now that they're here, what are we going to do with them? And are they really illegal immigrants? Because our current political party there's no wall with a big door like Donald Trump said. It's just an open border. And there is a huge welcome mat down there. So are they really illegals? I mean, personally, I don't think they're illegals. Why? Because if you invite somebody into your house, is it illegal? No. But if somebody comes in against your will, then that's illegal. Well, the party's invited all these people here. So they're on an invitation. So are they really illegals? I don't know.
I have a lot of friends that actually are immigrants and they became citizens. And one, I actually helped her study to become a US citizen. And she's an older woman. And one of the things you have to learn to speak and understand the English language.
Well, that's been gone for a long time.
Well, She actually failed because they said she wasn't listening to the English language the first time. The second time, she actually passed because the U.S. Congress was on the strike thing, and I think they just passed her because she didn't change anything. So it's not that hard to actually become a U.S. citizen.
It's just a very long
Process. And nobody wants to do the process.
But this administration is giving everybody a fast track. They're giving out work permits, and we were talking about benefits. I mean, all these benefits that they're getting, which include work permits to go immediately start working. And what does that mean for Americans? Well, I just heard recently Tyson Food is firing pretty much all the Americans that work for it to hire all these immigrants that had the work visa because they work for pennies on the dollar compared to what Americans worked. Because in America, we have a wage, a minimum wage. Well, does that apply to these immigrants? Because they're not U.S. citizens. And I think Tyson's Food might be, bare bottoming whatever the minimum they've got to pay them, all in the name of profit.
Well, there's always been like companies, like I know up in Cleveland, there was a restaurant. They paid all their workers under the table because they were all illegals. They got away with it till they got raided. So that's always been a way where they can undercut paying minimum wage by paying under the table, some of these places. But now it's becoming more mainstream, basically.
So, I mean, yeah, well, it's always been that way in the fields and stuff, American jobs that Americans didn't want to do. So they've always relied on immigration. And, who do you think we live down here in Orlando? Who do you think cleans these Disney resorts and Universal resorts and all these other resorts that are around here? It's mostly almost all immigrants.
Well, it's even for a home building. Home building is huge down here. And I know up north, my sister had her house built. And it was Mexican illegals that was building the house because my brother-in-law found out they were living in the house as it was getting built. Wow. He caught them and he found out that they basically come over here. They know they don't have the proper work permits. The company hired them and basically told them as the houses are being built, you have shelter.
So it's amazing. Like, what kind of qualifications do they have? And these companies, they won't train Americans to do the job, but they'll train the immigrants to do the job. So they'll train them and give them jobs where they're firing Americans. And I think Tyson Food, I'm completely boycotting that. You do what you want, but it's kind of like I boycotted Coke for their stuff that in the past, there's a number of things, but that's my personal preference. You do what you feel is right. But like I said, so what kind of people are we getting? Venezuela empties their prisons. China, I hear a lot of Chinese immigrants are coming across. And basically, they're like spies because China is a very focused, very decisive country. And they've got goals and plans. And they've got they're thinking 10 steps ahead. And they're sending these people here to infiltrate for 10, 15, 20 years down the line for information, for control. It's kind of like China. How much land China owns in the United States? It's amazing. And then China wanted to they were trying to buy a company to corner the nuclear market.
Well, don't forget, there's the big controversy now about TikTok because the U.S. Senate wants to ban it because they think they're using to spy on us.
And everybody's got mixed emotions, and you're right to have mixed emotions. But what I think the bottom line is about TikTok is it's China controlled. China's getting all your information, everything about you. And that is what all of a sudden now is an uproar. These other companies get all your information and know everything about you also. But, this is China. How do I know Google is not selling my information to China? Or how do I know friggin' Lexus, I drive a Lexus, isn't selling my information to China? Did you hear that there are companies now that teamed up with insurance companies like auto sales, like Chevrolet, and they are going to literally monitor your driving to see how hard you brake, how you accelerate, things like that. But with China, though, it's all about the infiltration for a world domination somewhere in the future. My personal thoughts.
Yeah, they did try to poison us by putting lead on our stuff, so who knows?
Lead paint, remember that?
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people from countries in the Middle East that are not very American friendly are coming across the border. And, they're just coming in and getting their paperwork and being shipped wherever. And why is this really happening? I mean, a lot of people bring up all this immigrations for demographics, so let's just say California can say, hey, we need more House of Congressmen because we've got more people. So now we control more of the voting for president in other elections compared to, let's say, Florida.
Well, there has been things in the news. Like there's one I know it happened quite a few years ago, and it was like a semi-famous actress. She was in her little apartment studio office, and it was an illegal immigrant. He actually tried to rob her, and he ended up killing her. And they didn't discover for a few days. You got those. There is crimes from, like you said, the Venezuelan prisons where these people have had a history of violent crimes.
And they have a history here in the United States and they're committing.
And they're committing crimes, and a lot of it's fear because they're going to get turned in. When the trial happened with that, the guy felt that this woman was going to turn him in because he's an illegal.
Now I get it. Oh yes, we've had crime for a long time in this country. Americans committing crime, but there's the difference. They were Americans. They were U.S. citizens committing these crimes. That's our problem. But when you have illegals illegals, I really don't think of them as illegals because, like I said, they just got open borders with a huge invitation. So the immigrants coming across the border, they've got nothing to lose. They get all these benefits the government gives them. There's another one out there to where they're in California, they're going to house immigrants with residents and pay them like $2,000 a month.
Oh, don't forget the boot camps, those migrant cities that pop up. They have like Xboxes. They have more stuff than a homeless person has. They're living in these tents, but yet they have like all the luxuries.
I mean, our government caters to them as the new generation of people. And the argument of, well, immigrants built this country. Well, yeah, because we were all immigrants at one time. It's like the dumbest argument ever. When the Cubans came over, back in the 80s, 70s, when they cleaned out and they created Little Havana, and times were different and they succeeded. I mean, they developed their own culture and they worked hard and they did well. But today, with all the immigrants from around the world, all these Haitians now, all right, with all this money we stick in Haiti, all these hundreds and billions of dollars that were shipped to Haiti. I mean, was it Clinton had like $60 million and built 4 houses for Haiti after the hurricane, basically pocketed the rest and nobody cared.
Well, one thing I do know about some of the Haitian, and I only know this because I worked in healthcare, a lot of the Haitian immigrants that are here, HIV is huge, and it's for their children who have HIV. They're here for healthcare because we have better healthcare than they will to help them treat HIV, which is very rampant in these children.
But they're all coming here now, and they actually have a legitimate reason of asylum because their country's at war with itself. And so what are we going to do? We're going to take all these Haitians. Are they ever going to go back to Haiti? No. So, and what does all this immigration do for your children going to school? You pay higher taxes because we need more schools. Everybody pays more because we've got to pay for the people with nothing.
When you ask somebody that actually came over here, did all the paperwork and became a U.S. citizen, I know quite a few of them. And the first thing they always said was the pride they have that they are an American citizen, American dream. They are so happy the day they take the oath and they're officially a citizen.
Well, I agree. I mean, these immigrants that come over and do it correctly, that do it legally, and they take that oath, that is like one of the proudest days in their lives. They have more American spirit and love for this country than the majority of Americans.
That is sad. It is sad. I remember one girl.
I think we've all lost focus what America is and what it means to be an American, because you talk to other people from Venezuela and Colombia and Brazil, you ever listen, they go, my country. They always refer to it as my country. And that's a sign of pride and respect and love for their country. You don't hear Americans talk about, well, in my country.
Yeah, my best friend is actually from Poland, and I said to her, "Oh, your daughters are first generation Polish American," and she said, "No, my daughters are American." She said, "There's a difference. They are Americans. I don't like this segregation. My daughters are American. Yes, I am Polish, but they are American."
Yeah, but see,
It's the pride.
but also it's the way the government separates us. It's you're African American instead of you're an American. You're Latin American instead of American. I mean, you don't see people like I am European American, or I mean, and then it was the government segregates us, and that's a big reason they like all this immigration in, because it keeps us segregated, because they can segregate even more and more to keep us divided. My personal thoughts.
Well, sometimes it's the government does feed us so much stuff, and that's why we kind of have a war at each other because we listen to all this stuff too. That's the
Yeah.
problem. We buy into a
I
lot.
have friends that got off Facebook, all that social media. They don't watch the news, and they say they are so much happier.
Yeah,
And I laugh. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh my God, they're so much happier. I'm very limited on social media, and I'm very limited on the news I watch, just because I found out watching the news, watching events like this immigration process, watching a lot of stuff. I mean, I watch just enough to kind of keep up with the times, but it just overwhelms, and you develop so much internal anger and hate, and just what's going on, and nothing's being done. And it's like, what the heck? I mean, somebody do something, but yet, what can you do?
right. I agree.
So I mean, and we were talking about like all these migrants, all their benefits, and how, like I said, how does that affect your kids and stuff like that? Because all these kids are coming in and they're flooding your schools, and they're creating a class of 20 into a class of 40. And I mean, and it costs money, a lot of money that they're not spending, but you are, to get your child the education that he's competing for against everybody else.
Well, there is the thing too with immigrants coming over, and I know this from jobs, their educations are so different than what we have. You have ones that are nurses in their country, but their nurse license doesn't translate to over here, so they're no more than a lab tech.
Well, that goes through with a lot of things. I mean, like, states have their own
Yeah.
standards, and it's not just, and that personally, I mean, how different is my body compared to somebody from Venezuela or Brazil or Europe or anywhere? How different am I, compared to them? And if they're a good enough doctor over there, then let's give them a standardized test here. Here's what it needs to be a doctor. Take the test. You pass the test. Congratulations, you're a doctor. Not this whole BS where you're not good enough because Americans are superior and we're just so much better than you and we look down on everybody. And that's just the government again.
True.
But, you know, it doesn't affect them, so they don't care.
No, but that one thing I do know, just because I've been in different health systems and I've been at some of the top health systems, healthcare is not the same across the United States. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
Totally different. It's really wild. We don't even have standards that is universal. You would think so, but no.
but,
Anyway.
so I mean, how do you feel about all these immigrants? I mean, a lot of people are like, I hate them. I wish they'd go home and kick them back. But put the shoe on the other foot. You're them. Your life, they say the best life, or I should say, let me reverse that. The worst life here, being a poor person living here is 100 times better than living there. And it's like, how can that be? And I mean, I've seen some of these houses that they live in. I travel all over the world and a lot of South America and everything, and into the islands or whatever. And, these places, these people who, what they call a home, we call a lawnmower shack with holes in it. It's sad. But think about that. Being poor here is 100 times better than living there.
That's what a lot of my
So,
friends they say the same thing, that are like they're citizens, but they were born in countries like Iran. They're all mostly over in Europe, and they said, we're so spoiled over here, we don't realize it.
yeah.
And
And I
that's
mean,
true.
so if you were them and the United States said, open sesame, doors are wide open, what would you do?
Run.
So Yeah, I'd run to the border.
Run to the border.
But I
And not for
mean,
Taco Bell.
but I mean, we don't put ourselves in the shoes of the immigrants that are coming here. And I'm not for it. I wish Donald Trump built that wall with a big door so we can control everything. But one party thinks the more people we get here, they're going to get a lot more votes, control all the voting, and just have a one party rule for the rest of the existence of the United States. And our government does not think about the people at all. They just think about themselves and the power. And these immigrants are a tool for them to get that power and to keep it for as long as the United States exists for just a one party rule. And my cousin, who has an Sirius XM show, his idea, ship them all back. We get rid of them, move them back. Donald Trump was like, if I become president, you're going to see a huge deportation effort. And my thing is like, even though that's what I'd like to see, but is it fair? Because Biden let them all in. Now we have a new president. We're going to kick them all out. I mean, and then if we get another president, he goes, oh, come on back in. And we get another president, oh, kick them all out. I mean, I don't know about that. I just, it'd be easier if it just never happened.
One of the things I do know about immigration is it will always be divided on this because you're always going to have your ones that like just let them in, let them do whatever because they need to help. And you're going to have the others that are like, no, well, they shouldn't.
People are like that until it affects them.
Until it affects them.
When it affects them personally, like when your child or you do not get a job with Tyson because you're an American, but illegal gets it. And now you're like, what the heck am I going to do to feed my family? Then you're like, oh, I hate immigration. But yet last year you were like, oh, let them all in. I'm for it. Until it affects people, they're like, what's the big deal? It doesn't affect me. And that's part of our problem as a nation of the people is we're so busy with our own lives. Yeah. And as long as something does not affect us, we don't care.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, basically. As long as it doesn't affect you, yeah.
And I think right now, these immigrations, I mean, these kids have got the world at their heels and the families coming over. I mean, our government's just bending over backwards to give them everything that they can. And you have people in need that are American citizens that just are left out.
Yeah. So
I don't agree with that. I really if we can't, the reason I don't want immigrants here is because we can't even take care of our own selves. And a big part of that is we put the wrong people in power and everybody thinks that their governor or their senators or their house, oh, it's not my fault. It's everybody else's. No, it's your people too.
Yeah. There's like different things. I don't think they should be handed everything. Like one of the things I was kind of surprised at, we're all required auto insurance. They can get a paper that says they're exempt from auto insurance and they wonder why insurance rates are high here in Florida. It's because of that. I found that out.
One reason, yes.
Yes.
That's absolutely.
So why do they get exemption, but someone who's struggling to pay their bills doesn't? So figure that out.
And yes, this country is built on immigration, but not the ones from prison, not the ones with no skill level whatsoever, never even graduated high school.
Yeah, most countries, you have to show that you can actually contribute to their country, but not us.
Oh, a lot of them. But I'll tell you what, if I was one of them, I'd be running for this border with my kids and everything. Let's go. And I will say that I guarantee almost every immigrant you meet that has children, they'll say, why did you do what you did? Why are you here? And they'll say, because I want a better life for my kids. They do everything for the kids. They will sacrifice the rest of their life for their children.
Yep.
And there's a lot of love in that.
Yeah.
And I can respect that a lot.
Yeah, I can understand making it better for your children because you don't want them, especially like some of those states or some of the areas that are very war torn, like Israel and all that, to get out of that because they want their children to survive and have a better future. You got to respect it.
I don't know if I would have said Israel, but okay.
Well,
Israel's not.
It's one of those ones that's war torn right now.
More like Venezuela. What happened in Venezuela? Venezuela was the second largest economy in the Western Hemisphere, just behind the United States, 25 years ago. And then Chavez took over and just turned that country from a capitalistic country to communism. Oh, Bernie Sanders. And and you see what happened with Venezuela now. I mean, it's just, and the people fled and came here and all that. I mean, that to me is kind of a war-torn country because it was martial law for the most part. One government rule. It was a dictate turned into a dictator, and you know, just took everything from the people, and the people had to flee to get out for a better life here in this country. And those people, I mean, I can understand that and respect that. Like you said, if the shoe's on the other foot, that was you. What would you do?
Yeah. No matter what, there is no right or wrong answer. Everybody has an opinion. So we're asking you, what is your opinion on the immigration?
How do you feel about the immigrations rushing across the border? And one reason I think things like that don't get fixed
No.
is because politicians need arguments. They need to challenge each other. They need the Republicans against Democrats. They need to fight each other. It needs to look good on TV, and
they need it for the debates.
They need it for everything. They just and they don't fix anything. They exempt themselves for everything. I mean, like I said, you don't see Martha's Vineyard where a lot of very wealthy people live, taking in any immigrants. But these are people with control and political pull.
Right.
Like the Obamas. I remember, who was it? Was it Abbott? Shipped a bunch of illegals to Martha's Vineyard, and they freaking within the hour had them shipped out.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Hey, don't want them in my backyard, but I'm going to give them to you.
Right. That's why like California and Florida, New York are overwhelmed with immigrants right now.
Florida's not as much as California.
California has it the worst.
And New York.
Texas, too, from what I understand.
And Texas does because that's where the border is and everybody's crossing over. But it's not like that they want them. I mean, it's not like, it's these other state governors and politicians sitting there screaming at Texas, like, I can't believe you're shipping these people out against their will. It's like, see, hey, as long as it's not in my state, I don't care. Texas, you should be more loving. The moment it goes to the state that you represent, oh my God, now it's millions and millions of tax dollars.
You know what? You never hear about this stuff in the States. You never hear about like Montana, Iowa, Wyoming. You never hear about
They ain't moving there, I guess.
So anyway, so what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, well, how do you feel about all these immigrants coming across our border?
So let us know. And with that, we'll see you next time. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, and we'll get your opinion on stuff later on. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm wondering, nope, I was recording. I'm like, am I going live? Why?